10 years ago, 11.5 million files leaked from a single Panama-based law firm, Mossack Fonseca, and exposed the inner workings of offshore finance to the world. The Panama Papers revealed billions in suspect funds moving through the global economy and shined a light on how corrupt elites were gaming the system to protect their wealth.
I think the thing that really struck me about the papers was the role of the UK and how central the UK was to moving so much of this money around the world. We identified tens of thousands of UK homes that were owned through shell companies. And at that time, that meant that no one, not even the land registry, knew who really owned them without leaks like the Panama Papers.
The National Crime Agency estimates that over £100 billion a year is laundered through or within the UK, while Transparency International, UK's own research, has identified billions worth of UK property linked to suspect wealth as well. For years, anti-corruption experts called for transparency in property and company ownership. With the Panama Papers making it clear for the world to see, governments began to listen.
A month after the Panama Papers came out, we had the London Anti-Corruption Summit in 2016 that was hosted by the UK. And that was a really pivotal moment, I think, for the global anti-corruption community. We had had a system of secrecy in the UK for a very long time in terms of who owned UK companies, who owned UK properties. But at that summit, the UK government committed to change that, to introduce the UK Company Register, and they also committed to introduce the UK Property Register, where finally people who owned UK properties through overseas companies would have to tell the authorities who they really were.
Further progress soon followed. In 2017, the Criminal Finances Act and the UK's first anti-corruption strategy were introduced. A year later, the Sanctions and Money Laundering Act, which included a requirement for the overseas territories to create public registers of company ownership, passed as well. But political upheaval and the COVID pandemic soon diverted attention away. Then, in 2022, the invasion of Ukraine exposed how deeply Russian money had embedded itself in the UK and forced illicit finance back up the political agenda.
Felt like a watershed moment. We were kind of rolling the wave of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which had exposed the role that the UK plays in facilitating dirty money, including from the Kremlin. And the government wanted to bring in some reforms to clean up Companies House and make sure that companies were no longer being used for that purpose. One of the major wins, for instance, that we got was around new SLAPS laws, as well as introducing a failure to prevent fraud. But the real thorn in the UK side, I would say, is what's still going on in the British overseas territories and Crown dependencies.
In 2022, just as the UK began closing loopholes, Europe opened up a new one when the Court of Justice of the European Union ruled that public beneficial ownership registers breached privacy rights. These registers are vital tools used by journalists, investigators, and civil society to trace corruption and financial crime. In response, EU countries restricted access only to those who can demonstrate a clear need. But the ruling had wider consequences, and years of hard-won progress was suddenly at risk.
The British Virgin Islands is actually one of the worst offenders. They come up all the time in our investigation and our research, but their register is also one of the worst. The access is going to be very limited, but they're also including a tipping clause. If a journalist or an investigator makes an application, it would inform the owner of that company that someone is trying to access their data. Journalists could be exposed, they could be at risk, they could be legally threatened. It could also simply just give them an opportunity to relocate and move their assets and make sure that it's never recovered by law enforcement.
New laws, greater transparency, and stronger international cooperation have begun to close the gaps that have enabled dirty money to flow freely. But enforcement remains uneven, loopholes persist, key reforms have stalled, and a web of professionals still provide help to those looking to move stolen wealth. And for every door that closes, those who profit from secrecy look for another way in.
What the British Virgin Islands is proposing is a register that completely undermines its own purpose.
We still have a professional gatekeepers problem.
The most straightforward way to deliver corporate transparency is to make it public.
Lawyers, accountants, trust and company service providers, estate agents that are helping to move some of this illicit money to hide, to clean, to spend it. The UK government has made some commitments for reform in this area, but it hasn't happened yet.
If they were to do legitimate interest, then they need to ensure that access is open and meaningful for those who need it.
Corruption operates in the shadows, in complex financial structures, offshore accounts, and shell companies whose real owners may never be known. But its consequences are not hidden. It fuels conflict, hollows out public services, and undermines democracy around the world.
The UK has shown that with political will, progress is possible. But the kleptocrats, oligarchs, they won't stop, not while the system lets them.
In various parts of the world, we're actually seeing a rolling back of transparency commitments, a rolling back of anti-corruption commitments.
When political leaders steal public funds, that's real money. Those are public resources that should be spent on things like healthcare, infrastructure, education.
We need to come together and continue this fight because it will go on for a long time.